What if everything you thought you knew was just the tip of the iceberg? What if the world around you was hiding secrets so profound that they could change everything forever? Prepare to have your assumptions shattered as we dive into the unknown. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon at Finch's Diner, a small vintage eatery nestled on the corner of Main Street in a sleepy, New England town. The neon open sign flickered faintly, casting an eerie glow on the windows as the bell above the door chimed. A man in his late 50s entered, dressed in a tailored but understated suit. His graying hair was combed neatly, his eyes scanning the room with a quiet intensity that felt out of place in the humble setting of Finch's. Clara, the sole waitress on duty, looked up from the counter, her auburn hair tied back in a ponytail, her uniform slightly wrinkled from the long shift. She smiled politely, her practiced routine masking the curiosity that suddenly sparked inside her. "Table for one?" she asked. The man nodded without a word, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer than expected, as if trying to gauge something beneath her cheerful smile. "By the window, please," he murmured. Clara grabbed a menu and led him to a booth by the glass pane, where sunlight streamed in like a golden river, bathing the table in warmth. As she placed the menu in front of him, the man continued to study her, an unsettling, quiet intensity in his eyes. "Can I get you started with a drink?" Clara asked, forcing her voice to stay calm. "Coffee, black," the man replied curtly. Clara hurried to the counter, her thoughts racing. There was something about him, his presence, his demeanor. His eyes, they seemed familiar, but she couldn't place it. Customers came and went from Finch's daily, but this man, he carried an air of authority, like someone who was used to making decisions that mattered. As Clara poured his coffee, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was more to this encounter than a simple diner visit. She returned to the booth, setting the cup in front of him. "Here you go," she said with a smile that felt too wide. "Let me know if you're ready to order." He gave a slight nod, pushing the menu aside. "I'll have a look in a minute," he said, his voice low, but deliberate. Clara went back to the counter, her eyes occasionally flicking toward him as she wiped down the surface. The diner was nearly empty by 3 p.m. Customers had trickled in and out, but the man by the window seemed completely absorbed in his thoughts, occasionally jotting something down in a small leather notebook. His movements were precise, controlled. Clara couldn't help herself. She glanced back again, only this time she noticed something strange. The man had placed his wallet on the edge of the table, slightly ajar, its contents visible to anyone who cared to look. Was it an accident, or had he done this deliberately? Before she could process the thought, the man stood up. Clara's heart skipped a beat as he made his way to the door, leaving the wallet behind. Her eyes locked on the leather accessory, a wave of hesitation washing over her. Should she go after him? But what if he came back? What if it wasn't really his wallet at all? The bell above the door jingled as he disappeared into the late afternoon sun. Hours passed, and Clara continued her shift, unable to shake the image of the forgotten wallet. The diner grew quiet, the light fading as evening shadows crept into every corner of the room. It wasn't until Clara began to close up for the night that she finally approached the booth. She hesitated for a moment, fingers brushing over the smooth leather of the wallet. It was still there, untouched. She picked it up, her heart pounding in her chest as she glanced inside. A leather ID card caught her eye. She read it aloud, her voice barely a whisper. Alexander Whitmore. Her stomach dropped. Whitmore, the name echoed in her mind. The reclusive billionaire known for his investments and charity foundations. What was someone like him doing here, in her small-town diner? Torn between curiosity and a sense of duty, Clara locked the wallet in the back office, deciding to wait until morning to figure out what to do. The thought of calling the number on the ID card felt overwhelming. What if this was some kind of test? Stories of billionaires planting traps to gauge honesty weren't unheard of. Clara's heart raced at the thought. The next morning, as dawn broke, Clara arrived early to open the diner. She retrieved the wallet from the back office, her hands trembling as she stared at it. The door jingled again. This time, it was him, Alexander Whitmore. Dressed casually in a sweater, he smiled faintly as he approached the counter. "Good morning," he said. "I believe I left something here yesterday." Clara froze, her pulse quickened. Would returning it immediately make her seem dishonest for not calling him sooner? Or was her caution justified? She reached into the drawer beneath the counter and handed him the wallet. "You left this," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Whitmore took it from her, opening it with deliberate slowness. He checked the contents, ensuring everything was intact. His smile widened, and he looked up at Clara. "You're an honest woman, Clara," he said, his tone almost approving. "That's rare these days," Clara laughed nervously. "You're lucky nobody else picked it up." "Luck had nothing to do with it," he replied cryptically. Then, with a swift motion, he pulled out a business card and slid it across the counter. "I have an opportunity for people like you, if you're interested. Think of it as a thank you." Clara's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the card. Her heart raced, and for a moment, the world around her seemed to stop. The name Whitmore Foundation was embossed on it, alongside a private number. She reached for the card, her fingers trembling. What had she just stepped into? "You passed the test," Whitmore said, standing to leave. "Now, let's see what you'll do with it." Clara stood frozen as he walked out, leaving her standing there, holding the card. Her mind raced. What was happening? What was this? And most importantly, who was Alexander Whitmore? Little did Clara know, this was only the beginning. The next few days passed in a blur. Clara couldn't stop thinking about Whitmore's cryptic words. The card weighed heavily in her pocket. Was it a scam? Or was this the opportunity of a lifetime? She spent hours replaying the encounter, unable to shake the feeling that something much bigger was unfolding just beyond her reach. By noon, Clara met her best friend Jenny at Tony's Pizza. As they sat down, Jenny's eyes widened as Clara recounted the events of the previous day. Wait, hold on," Jenny interrupted, her fork paused mid-air. "You're telling me Alexander Whitmore, the guy who owns half the city, tested your honesty and now wants to give you an opportunity? That's insane." Clara shrugged, her gaze distant. "It feels off. Why me? I'm just a waitress. There are a million other people more suited for whatever he's offering." Jenny smirked. "Maybe that's exactly why he chose you. Or maybe he's bored, and this is his version of reality TV. Either way, what's the harm in calling him?" "I don't know," Clara admitted, the card burning a hole in her pocket. "Something about it doesn't sit right with me." Jenny's eyes sparkled with mischief. "The worst thing that happens is it's a scam, and you hang up. The best thing, you could be sitting on the opportunity of a lifetime." Clara let out a deep breath. Maybe Jenny was right. She could always hang up. But what if Jenny was wrong? What if this really was the moment her life changed forever? Later that evening, Clara gave in. Sitting cross-legged on her worn couch, she dialed the number on the card. The line rang twice before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Whitmore Foundation, how may I assist you?" Clara hesitated for a moment, then spoke. Hi, my name's Clara. I was given this card by Mr. Whitmore yesterday. He said I should call." "One moment," the voice replied, followed by a faint click. And then, Whitmore's smooth voice came through, warm but commanding. "Clara, I was beginning to think you wouldn't call." Clara swallowed hard. "I wasn't sure if I should. That speaks volumes," Whitmore said, his tone appreciative. "I have a proposition for you. Come to my office tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. The address is on the card." Before Clara could respond, the line went dead. The following day, Clara stood outside a gleaming skyscraper in the heart of the city. The Whitmore Foundation's minimalist logo gleamed on the glass doors. She took a deep breath before pushing them open, stepping into a world entirely different from her own. Inside, the air hummed with luxury. Marble floors, high ceilings, and an aura of quiet efficiency surrounded her. Whitmore sat behind a large mahogany desk, his demeanor relaxed but commanding. "Clara," he said, motioning for her to sit. "Thank you for coming." Clara forced a smile, trying to calm the fluttering in her chest. "I'm not sure why I'm here." Whitmore leaned forward, his gaze sharpening. "I won't waste your time with pleasantries. I'm looking for someone trustworthy. Someone who can keep a secret and act with integrity under pressure." "Yesterday, you proved you're that person," Clara frowned. "But I'm just a waitress." "Precisely," he interrupted, a glint of intrigue in his eyes. "You're unassuming. People underestimate you. That's exactly what makes you valuable." The weight of his words hung in the air as Clara struggled to process what he was offering. "What is it you want me to do?" Whitmore smiled, but it was a cold smile. "The question, Clara, is not what I want you to do. The question is, what are you willing to do?" And so, the journey began. Clara's world was about to change in ways she never could have imagined. As she took the first steps into this shadowy new reality, she could no longer ignore the truth. There was something much larger than she could ever comprehend unfolding behind the scenes. And whether she was ready or not, she was now a part of it. But was she in control of her fate? Or was she just another pawn in a game too dangerous to understand?